Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We're going to have a great show for you today. Today I have something to show you how we change minds. But before we get started, I want to ask all of you guys that are listening, that are just getting here today, to go ahead and please remember we need to share these programs. Share these programs so that others can be enlightened through independent media as well. It is important. It is very important that we support this endeavors. If you're watching the news today, if you've watched the news yesterday, if you've watched the news over the last several weeks, we have had non-ending talk about impeachment. You should recall one of the blogs that I wrote a while back where I've been telling folks, look, if you're going to impeach quickly, and let's get busy with what the people need. Because there are a lot of us that are political junkies, and yes, we are wondering and we are concerned. We want, many are talking about, we want to impeach, we want to do these things. Nobody should be able to get away with what El Señor Trump is getting away with. But my God, there's a lot happening in the country. There's a lot that's going on. There's a lot that needs to be taken care of, and we have got to get it done. And we're not going to get it done just simply being concerned about impeachment. It just won't get, it just won't get done. We have to start getting busy. We have to start ensuring that people are, that we are responding to people, that we are actually getting things done, that we're not just concentrating on impeachment, because that's not going to put any food on anybody's table. Let's remember that. That will put no food on anybody's table. So we really need to get off of it. I hope to get some calls today. I sure hope that you give me a call, 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812 if you want to be a part of the discussion. I want to talk somewhat about the media as well. If we take a look at how they are covering the portion of where Trump is really giving it to Biden. Oh, they are really coming to Biden's defense, aren't they? I sit down and watch, and I'm like, every time they talk about Biden, they make sure to put a qualification on it. Remember, none of this is proven. Biden never did this. Biden never did that, meaning Biden's son. No, the media is up and always ready to protect Biden. It is hard to sell to the right. It is hard to sell to the progressive left that the media is not on the take. Why, when we were discussing Obamacare, why, when we were discussing all these issues where the right wing came with stories that were incredulous, stories that made no sense whatsoever, why didn't the media come out then with the same forcefulness that they are now, pointing out the lies that Trump's telling? Why weren't they that forceful then? Why were they not forceful? I mean, we take a look at what's going on, people, and what we really see is the way the media functions is a matter of control. It's a matter of doing things the way they want to do it, not the way things are. and we have to be very, very cognizant of that before we get busy. So what are we going to talk about today? What are we going to talk about today? Let me go ahead and start the show by, first of all, bringing it up. That'll help, right? So anyhow, the show today's title, This Republican Now Supports Medicare for All. We must keep talking. That's the title of the show. The subtitle of the show is, Why? Why does someone decide to support Medicare for All? Worry about the act itself, folks. Let's keep talking to people and earn their trust to change their minds. So that is the subtitle of the show. And now we get started. It is important that we invest the time to inform the masses about Medicare for All. And I know a lot of those of you that are regular said, Egberto, you're touching Medicare for All again. And I'm going to explain to you why I must. Because you know what? Every day, after I read the blog of the week, after I let you listen to somebody that, after I spoke to, became a Medicare for All proponent as well, or, convert. I don't want to say convert. That's somebody who saw the reason to have Medicare for All. I'm going to then go over to another site and talk to you about what's really occurring. Masticator just says, I am going to need proof this guy is a registered Republican. Don't worry, he is. But anyhow, going back to what I need to say is, look, don't be fooled. There is an industry out there that is designed to fool most Americans into supporting policies against their own interests. We are the only thing between them, we being the progressive media. We are the only thing, the absolutely only thing between the reality, between the truth, between all these issues. So we are the only thing between them and the people. Let's do our job by ensuring everyone in our spheres of influence gets the truth. Medicare for All is I repeat now, Medicare for All is the only option. Let's explain why it's simple. Do not complicate it. Opposers need complications to sell a lie. Remember that. They want you to deny math. They want you to deny common sense. They want you to do all these things so that a few profit as others are coerced or lied to into supporting something that doesn't work. Something that has failed us continuously, and that is what we're going to go through. So folks, before we get started, do you know, and you know how we do this thing here, it goes something like this, and actually, before I sing that praise, I think I better go ahead and start bringing up the document that I'm supposed to be talking about and make sure that I can even get to the document that I'm supposed to be talking about. So what I'm going to say first is, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, the weekly blog post, and here it goes. The title of the weekly blog post is, This Conversation Changed a Republican into a Medicare for All supporter. And it goes as follows. Oleg was a staunch Republican who worked for himself. He is a hard-working, tax-paying American who thought he hated Obamacare. But now he loves it, but hated Medicare for All. So he loves Obamacare now. But that ideology is holding him in. His ideology is holding him in, so he has to hate something progressive. So he hates Medicare for All. This conversation, however, changed it. Because in this back and forth, deep. You could see his machinations in his head. His common sense reigned. He realized that the plutocracy, the people in power, are the ones that are screwing him. The people that are telling him, you need to do, you don't need that. Those people are a whole bunch of pinko communists, pinko socialists. You don't want that. They want what he does on, what he finally figured out. They want to kill him. If they have to invest money in healing him, they want him dead. You remember when that congressman said that? I should find that video. That congressman says, Republican healthcare, but it's not only Republican healthcare. Let's not just sit down and blame Republicans, people. When I say Republicans, anytime I talk about Republicans or Democrats, I'm not talking about my brothers and my sisters, the people, the masses. Because we're all conditioned by the leaders. We are all conditioned by the leaders, and there are some good leaders and there are some bad leaders in every party. But the bad leaders of all parties are the ones that are against Medicare for All. You don't support Medicare for All, you're bad. You don't support single-payer Medicare for All, you're bad. Why? Because you're selling a lie. Why? Because you're evil, because you know that supporting that will kill. And I will tell that to anyone, any politicians who come to me and say, I'm sorry, I can't support Medicare for All, I will immediately call you murderer. Because you know better. You know the laws, you know the math. Continuing. Oleg is a contractor who is very independent. Like many of his ideology, meaning the ideology to the right, the conservative ideology and mindset, when in a state of independence where he has the semblance of full control of his life, he was able to live his ideology, the ideology of me, the ideology of selfishness, that ideology that says, that Ayn Randian ideology that says, look, I can take care of myself. I don't need anybody else to take care of me. I forget, of course, that there are roads. I forget that there are airports. I forget all these things. Because somehow I'm under the semblance of belief that all these things just appear. If I can make some money and I can keep all my money, I can take care of myself, not realizing that the inventions for the car that you drive came out of the cumulative knowledge provided to us all by all of us working together, not by some one individual who was able to monopolize on it. Yes, Ford monopolized. Ford figured out how to build them in a manner that he could mass produce them and allow people to buy them. But absent the technologies of our mind, the intellect of thousands over the years, he wouldn't be able to do a damn thing. Okay? He couldn't be able to do a damn thing. Think about it. So what I want you to see is I want you to understand. It is imperative that you understand how things work. But anyhow, so I'm going to repeat that paragraph for those of you who just came in. I just got a whole bunch that just came in. It goes like this again. Oleg is a contractor who is very independent. Like many of his ideology and mindset, when it in a state of independence where he has the semblance of full control of his life, he was able to live his ideology. When you're in control, when you're not sick, where you have full control of what the things that you have to do. It's easy to have a right-wing ideology. It's easy to have a conservative ideology. It's easy to have a me ideology. It's easy to have a self ideology. But when you realize, when he was hit by his own health scare, his vulnerability had him supporting Obamacare with a passion. When watching the conversation, it is clear that his mind was still in conflict. And we find that a lot, right? You find that let me tell you, I talk to a lot of people. And I've turned, and I don't want to, when I say I've turned nobody. People have turned themselves after having been given good information. We can't do, if I turn somebody, that's not lasting. If somebody turned themselves, that's lasting. My goal is never to turn somebody. My goal is to put everything out there and ask you to add it up, massage it, and tell me your intellect, what did it evaluate? And what you really find is when you give people that latitude, when you're not there saying you must think that way, when you go ahead and say, here are all the things, tell me how did it massage in your head and what solution came out of it after you've validated the data that I've given you is true, after you've developed enough trust in what I'm saying to then go ahead and you make up your mind. It's amazing what happens then. Because when you make up your own mind, it is lasting. 937, I'll be coming to you in a minute. Before I do the video, I'll come to you, 937. Let me just finish with the... Actually, you know what? I don't like to keep people waiting for too long. 937, you have not hit the number 1 to tell me if you want to speak or not. So until I see that you hit the number 1, I won't bring you in. As soon as you hit the number 1 to say, yes, I want to say something, then I'll bring you in. Because a lot of people, what they're doing is they're listening online. They're not really, Blog Talk Radio allows you to listen online, listen on a computer, listen everywhere. So again, if you want to talk, 937, the caller that's holding on the phones, please just hit the number 1 and we'll go ahead and bring you in. But you have to hit the number 1. Okay. When he was hit, all like that is, with his health scare, his vulnerability had him supporting Obamacare with a passion. When watching the conversation, it is clear that his mind was still in conflict. And that's what you find. Like I said, when I've spoken to people, right, on many other issues, I spoke to a young man on, actually it's a business owner on immigration. And, I just asked one question after another. Please tell me, what would you suggest that we do? Please tell me, how do we handle these? And we went from situation to situation. And this guy looked at me and he said, you know what? I get it. And he wrote, but, he still wanted to hold on to that ideological meme, that ideological mindset. So what he did is he went home and he said, if I write a blog, will you post it? And I said, of course I would. Because at that point he had said, oh, I don't want less immigration. This is somebody that was pretty much anti-immigration. He said, I don't want less immigration. I want more. After going home, after we had a long conversation and all these things, he went home. He studied. He had to refute what I was saying. And when he found out that what I was saying was actually pretty true, he went further and he did more investigation. And let me tell you some of the things that he realized, and we're going to get back on healthcare, but we realized on immigration. We were growing in population-wise too slowly to keep up the kind of growth that we need to support the baby boomers. And he's a boomer. And he realized that the only way we are going to have a whole lot of Social Security to take care of a lot of people without having some huge raises in taxes is to bring a whole lot of increased productivity, bring a whole lot of new workers into this country. So he wrote a blog. And he wrote a blog to bring more people in. And he attempted to write the blog from a conservative viewpoint. And he did. And his conservative viewpoint brought more people in. He put some restrictions in his implementation. He put some restrictions on how this was going to happen. And, these restrictions really amounted to nothing more than, you're a conservative. To which, I said, you know what, whenever you're coming up with policy, you have to compromise. And I would have compromised on those and given it to him. Because the ultimate goal was to get more people in the country who would be able to support the economic system so that the baby boomers would have a good retirement and people would have a good quality of life. So I don't care how you want to tailor it. We come up with good policy, and sometimes it requires a compromise, and we do. But again, you let people change your mind. So Would it be a failed ideology or reality for Oleg? As he is confronted respectfully, as he is made the center, and the private insurance companies who continue to do him wrong is rightfully vilified, he realized he was fighting for those who were actually pilfering him. He was fighting, he was supporting a system that was pilfering him as it made others rich at his expense. He came and he said, man, I went to the doctor today. The specialist cost me $170 and my nose is still bleeding. And I called them up and said, hey, I paid you $170 and it's no change. What? You need to come in again. Oh, really? Yeah. It's $170. When we understand, those of us that, in America, you lose a job, you get a job. Those of you who are going to lose jobs, when this downturn hits, and the downturn is coming, people, when the downturn hits, you will be without insurance. ERISA not going to help you. Not even Obamacare is going to help you. Because in places like Texas, there's no Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, which means you have to be in abject poverty before you get support. So you own a house, you better sell it because you ain't getting no support from your state. All those states that said, we don't want the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, we don't want the Medicaid expansion to Obamacare, all those red states that are pretty much welfare states, so they said no. So when this downturn comes, all you Republicans right now, my brothers and my sisters that lose a job, vote the wrong way and watch your personal economy move further into shambles. My brother owns his own business. He has Obamacare now. Think about it. He's still in trouble till it kicks in. One must remember a simple mathematical fact. A private health insurance company cannot be more efficient than a public single-payer system. A mathematical impossibility. It is a mathematical impossibility. All those opposing single-payer systems are asking you to believe a lie. Private insurance must pay billions to thousands of executives, support for multiple databases, support for hundreds, thousands of shareholders, advertising, capital costs, and much more. And guess who pays for all of that? A private healthcare system has all those expenses before it ever pays a medical bill. Before it ever pays a medical bill, all those expenses must come out of the premiums that you pay. Remember that. Before that insurance company pays anything, it has to pay for the database, it has to pay the executives, it has to pay the shareholder. Everything has to be paid as expenses. So, and remember, that isn't money that they are making. That is your money. Your money. 832 that I see waiting on the phone. If you want to speak, please hit the number 1. That is how we know that you want to talk and you're not just listening. So if you want to speak, okay, I see the 1. I'll come to you as soon as I'm done with this particular blog, which will give me about 5 minutes or so. So folks, all those opposing single-payer system are asking you to believe a lie. Private insurance must pay billions to thousands of executive support for multiple databases, shareholders, advertising, capital costs, and much more. That is money out of your premium that could otherwise go to lower premium and insure more people as opposed to enriching a few. That is a fact. There is no two ways about it. That is a mathematical fact, and that's an actuarial fact. A public single-payer system has virtually none of those major costs associated with unnecessary private insurance. Private health insurance companies are middle skimmers of cash. They are thieves. They add no value. If you are getting something for free that isn't, let's say, something social, it is thievery. They are thieves. They add no value to health care. Too many allow ideology and gullibility to kill too many. Our support for a system based on a lie has murdered many of our fellow citizens, people. We have done that. All of us together have killed many of our fellow citizens because we allowed our gullibility, we allow our faith in those we shouldn't have faith in to cause us to elect the wrong people who are owned by these companies. So look, Oleg is no different than most Republican men who socioeconomically should be very progressive. He wants to hold on to an identity he wrongfully believes is existential. Inviting guys like him to straddle is the first step. We got to bring them in. Allow them to straddle the fence. Allow them to see that where you were was not existential. Where you are with us is existential. It allows them a certain latitude to adapt. This takes patience. Many are not willing to invest in, but some must. And I can tell you, I have all the patience needed to work with folk. All right, I'm coming to you, 832. Come on in, 832. You're on.
Hey, Berto, Rudy here.
Rudy, talk to me.
Yeah, I'm listening. Let me ask you this.
Yes.
And I want you to really think about this. What you're talking right now is two extremes.
Okay.
You've got the federal government, who all of my clients pretty much work with, that I know are totally inefficient. Totally inefficient. We don't even know where most of our tax dollars go. Mm-hmm. They just absorb them and just put them to work.
I agree.
On the other extreme, you've got businesses that are in the insurance industry that are basically top heavy, as you stated. I hear you loud and clear, and driving a profit. What we need is something in the middle. We need something in the middle, and it goes back to what you and I have debated on many occasions about Democrats and Republicans. Everything is an extreme. What we need is something in the middle.
And you know what? Medicare for All, Rudy?
We need the...
Rudy, Medicare for All is actually the middle. Let me explain. Okay? First of all, you are so right. There is so much waste in government. And most of the waste in government also come from private companies, the thievery. In other words, why is it that a missile costs what a missile costs? And why did I start with a missile? I don't know. But because of the private companies that are thieves when they bill the government. Everybody who bills the government, anytime you have a government contract or whatever, everybody knows the racket. The racket in government contracting is that you just get as much as you can out of the government because that is what they do. I find it ironic, right? Everybody loves to blame government, but it is the private companies that are thieves. It is the private companies that give them a $750 hammer and they accept it because they are corrupt. It's the private companies that do all these things. So what I'm saying, Rudy, is...
No. Wait.
Go ahead.
Stop. No,
go ahead.
No,
Sure.
Stop right there. Stop right there.
Yes.
In order for a transaction to occur, there has to be a recipient.
Yes, sir.
There has to be a giver and there has to be a recipient.
Yes.
What I'm saying to you is, me, right now, if I offered you a hammer
yes.
for $762,
I'll say you're crazy.
and you bought it, You are the dummy.
Yes.
And what I'm saying to you, is that these are human beings on both sides
Yes,
of
they
that
are.
equation. And so you can't blame. This is America. The value of something is in the eye of the beholder.
In the
That's
capitalist
the way
world, that
our
is true.
country.
Yes, you're right.
No. To be clear, we're not talking about the capitalist world. We're talking about capitalist America. 'Cause
I
that's
understand.
America. So if I am a company, I'm Joe Stuffy, and I'm selling something, and somebody's gonna pay me $762 for it, I would be a fool not to take it in capitalist America.
Okay, Rudy, I need to stop you
get
right
that?
there. Rudy, you're correct. Look, Rudy, that is what you learn in business school. That is what you learn in America. You are so right, Rudy. Hear me out, and I want you to hear me out well. First of all, remember, you are right. That is what you were taught. You were taught that. The reason we are in the morass that we are in is that is the economic model that we were taught. It's a greed model. It's an Ayn Randian model. That's what it is. Let me tell you how you just called me a fool, and I accept it. You, Rudy.
I didn't call you.
Let me explain.
Hey, Berto, I didn't call you.
No, let me explain, Rudy. Let me explain. I'm not taking offense at all because you're right. You're right. I've called myself a fool. Let me give you two instances, and this is so important. I sold licenses for the software. I developed some very complex software for communications, right? And I sold it to Boeing and NATS and all these things. And I've explained this before. I don't know if you've heard it before. I realized that I had pricing power. I could charge whatever I wanted for that software. There are times that I used to, there was one contract I sold for $10,000 on this one piece of software, the license to use it. And just because of how I was reared and I know the cost of things and my bills were under control then, I'm poor now because I'm doing full activism, but then I was awashed. And I said to myself, that isn't right. That isn't right. Ultimately, Boeing paid the $10,000, okay? But Boeing didn't. In my thinking, in understanding how economies work, I realized that it's only the damn low person down the totem pole that gets screwed. The average folk in the masses who has to buy the plane ticket, okay? We don't see that. We don't teach that. We teach how to maximize profits, how to Let me finish. Rudy, please, I made you speak. Let me finish. Please, let me speak. We teach in our business schools how to maximize profits in a business world without realizing that it is the end user who get it, and we expect the market to somehow regulate the end user to regulate us. But they never have pricing power ever. My pricing power.
Right, because what you should be doing, Egberto,
yes,
is
sir.
you should be pushing unions.
Yes, I am. You're right, sir. You're absolutely right, sir.
I told you, listen, I'm a capitalist, but I do understand what creates balance. And what I'm saying to you is I hope at some point you start doing a series of shows on revitalizing unions, because the only thing, because when you have unions, all the things you're talking about, healthcare, all of those things, they get balanced out because now you have volume. Yes. What happens is right now, I see this all the time in most of the readings that I do about the top 2%, 3%, whoever these people are.
Right.
Okay? But what balances it out is when you got voluminous people not going out and protesting and all of this stuff. But when you get these people to coalesce and develop unions where they're sticking together in their individual industry. Now get this. In Rudy, your individual industry,
it used to work. And you're Rudy, you know something? The union, when you have both sides that are just as powerful, then you can get equitable negotiations. You're so right about that, Rudy. But I want to go a little bit further than that, Rudy. And here's the further that I want to go. We have been taught that human nature makes us greedy. We have been taught that somehow the market, this invisible thing, works, right? And this is where I'm trying to tell Americans in general that it's a big lie. And let me explain what I mean by that. The reason unions could have been destroyed, the reason all these things were able to occur is that, in fact, people, the average people, are not greedy. It's the pathological psychopaths that are greedy. It's the Bill Gates.
It's not. No, I think I want to respectfully.
Please go ahead.
Disagree with you.
And you can, sir. You can, sir. That's why we have this show, sir.
Exactly. I want to respectfully disagree with you. I know a lot of folks, just like me, that understand the check and balance. The check and balance, Egberto, is that when people come to coalesce together and come to a consensus on what they want, because of our American, let's face it, the American system is not going to change because it's easier for two people to come together and say, we're going to do this, like you said. We're greedy. We want to rip everybody off. It's easier for two people to come together than it is for 50,000. And it takes effort. It takes effort.
And what I'm saying, and let's not look at this as mutually exclusive, Rudy. Let me tell you what I want to say here, because I think this is, you didn't let me finish what I want to say, and I think I need to say this, okay? We have been indoctrinated into a form of economics. And your claim is that it'll never change. My claim is that it will change when it falls on its face or when people like me are successful. And people like me are not going to be successful all at once. Let me tell you what path I see, okay? I see a path where those very capitalist people can continue to be as capitalist as they want. And those of us who believe in things like cooperatives and that sort of stuff can coexist. I think in the long run, people are going to see that cooperatives offer a more stable form of being and would attract themselves to it. And that cooperatives, and that eventually capitalism will be seen for what it really is, an antiseptic form of slavery. And I think when people start to see that, then they will...
Stop. You said, wait a minute, hold up. You laid out a term.
Yes.
You said that capitalism is an antiseptic
just like Richard Wolff, economist, made the correlation between slavery, feudalism, socialism, and capitalism. We have a show. If you get a chance to look at that show, look up Richard Wolff on my politicsdoneright.com and really listen to that show that I did. I had a full, I think it was like a 40-minute interview, 30-minute or 40-minute interview with him, a great economist. But the reason I said that is, and by the way, you don't qualify, Rudy. You are in that sweet spot. Okay, you're a nice guy. Let's get that out the door. You're a capitalist in name. You're really a sort of a blend of what we're talking about. So let's be real. I don't think a lot of people understand the viciousness of it. I mean, there's a guy who called into my show, the KPFT show on air, and he said, Egberto, you know what is so funny? To some extent, slavery was, the slave owner had to invest in the health of the slave. He had to invest in the clothes of the slave because that was his property that was producing. But now the capitalists, they just have to say, well, if you're worn out, just get the hell out of here and I'll get the next person in. And so, I mean, there are some interesting caveats when you talk about these different economic systems. So, I mean, but my thing again is what you're going to see if I am successful, if most of us that think in what we are doing are successful, they will coexist. There will be that blind-eyed capitalism, dog eat dog, and then there will be those of us who create cooperatives and work within that system. And I hope that eventually people will come over our way. But go ahead, Rudy.
Let me say this, man. Let me say this. I talk to a lot of different disparate individuals.
Yes, sir.
All of my clients are entrepreneurs. I mean, they're trying to actually benefit. But they're what it seems. Let me just say this: the people. If there weren't the people at the bottom, if there weren't the consumers,
Right.
right? I'm not a consumer. I'm not a consumer.
Yeah, you are.
I treat every transaction. No, I treat every transaction as if it's a business transaction.
Okay. All right.
But
I see what you're saying. I understand what you're trying to say.
Listen, no, listen to me. Let me give you the perfect example. I was at Lowe's. I was standing in a line that was about 12 feet long with one person serving everybody, and I said, I personally, Alberto, this was just yesterday. I had two bottles of glue. I just want to apply my glue and get out.
Okay.
So everybody's standing there. Just.
Hey, Rudy, kind of speed up on that one because I have another caller that just came in that I want to get in, but go ahead.
Okay. No, all right. What I did was I called the manager and I said, listen, you need to have two more people. People don't, everything you're saying may work. It may make sense. But I'm telling you, the herd theory is live and well. Because everybody, when I called the manager, everybody in that line, and we got three additional people, but nobody said anything except me.
You know something, Rudy? And you're right. First of all, I understand exactly what you're saying because you are me. Me are you. Me is you. Okay? So I understand what you're saying. The thing about it is, what you're going to notice, and I'm coming to you 409, what you're going to notice, Rudy, is both of us, the way we were cultured, is actually what led us there. And those people that were just followers, it's also how they were cultured. Like my parents, when I grew up, there was nobody that I was better than, but nobody was better than I was. And also, my culture, it was about speaking up. And a lot of that isn't top. But Rudy, let me get the other line and then we'll come back to you. I'm keeping you hot. All right, 409, come on in.
Okay.
409,
Hello?
you're on. Yes, sir, you're on.
Oh, okay. What's the topic of the day, Egberto? It's Anand.
Hey, Anand, how you doing? Today we're talking. Actually, we started out with a friend, Medicare for All, a Republican who hated Medicare for All, who hated Obamacare, who got had a heart situation, then loved Obamacare, couldn't convince himself to love Medicare for All until we had a conversation that I got on video, and right then and there, eventually he said, "Okay, I'm for Medicare for All 100%."
Okay.
I haven't played the video yet.
Here's two ways to frame it. The first is freedom.
I love that. I've done that, yes.
That is, yeah, that's a word very abused, but that's because different parts of America mean different things when they say freedom.
Right.
That's why everyone is confused. Everyone supports freedom, but it means something different in Massachusetts than it does in Wyoming. So freedom, so when you say the word freedom...
Let me stop you a second, Anand, because I want the audience to know who you are. Anand, I want to let the audience know who you are because I want people to know that Medicare for All has support from all fields and all parts. Anand is a doctor who supports Medicare for All. I just thought people need to understand that. Go ahead, Anand.
Okay, so freedom to choose, right? And a doctor showed me about his mother-in-law, and she had Medicare, for old people, Medicare.
Right.
And she needed a surgery, and she lived in, I think, St. Louis, but he was able to get her to go to Pittsburgh to get a procedure done. It was only done well in like 5 hospitals.
Right.
Okay, but because he had Medicare, for her, he was able to take her to UPMC.
Right.
Whereas if she had been on traditional private insurance, which has restricted networks,
including Medicare Advantage.
Well, probably. Which the president is trying to encourage Medicare Advantage,
because
which
it's
is
private.
really, Private, yeah. So, and even Medicare. And when you're talking about contracting, it's very true. 15 to I can't remember. The GAO has shown that Medicare Advantage costs 11 or maybe
No, it's I got the number.
20%
It's
more than
20% more.
traditional.
On Medicare Advantage costs the government 20% more.
Yes. And in Medicaid, when I lived in Kansas, I found out the lieutenant governor was a plastic surgeon, and they abolished government-delivered Medicaid.
Right.
Government-delivered Medicaid, they made all the insurance companies deliver it, and that cost money.
Right.
There's even, if you go to Britain, there's a lot of conversation about this because they're economically, they talk more in terms of political economy. There is even a situation in London with the train system. And the train systems that are run by the City of London are cheaper than the ones run by the private company. And in terms of the railroad system, the government privatized all of the railways and sold off each contract to a different company. So Virgin, the airline company, they have one, and then another company has one, and now they have the highest ticket prices. But at one point, the contract got dropped, and the government had to run the train line directly, and it was cheaper, but they insisted on selling it back to another company. So,
but Anand,
Anand,
what I don't understand with people,
let me ask you this.
it's important that people hold on, Rudy. It's important that people understand this, right? There are places where private companies don't make any sense, and transportation for municipal transportation is one of them.
Utilities.
Yeah.
Exactly. Utilities.
A utility does not require
Healthcare
innovation.
May I please interject?
Yeah, go ahead,
I'm
Rudy.
listening to this, and may I interject?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you this. Why are you not going, what did it cost you? Here's what happens. Let's look at the supply chain. It costs in America for you guys to become doctors a dump load of money that you have to pay back. And so as a consequence, you need to charge to whoever you work for, whether it's public or private, a huge amount of money so that you can not only survive, but pay back.
I think you're making a
point.
point.
Can I answer that
Why
question?
are you guys, wait a minute, why are you guys not going back at the universities and the institutions that you learn from to say, why does it cost this much?
Excellent. Okay, Rudy,
Well,
let Anand
I
answer
agree.
because you're making our point clearly.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Anand.
Well, that's a political decision. The state of Texas decided that they're going to have the cheapest medical schools in the country. I went to the University of Texas. I paid far less than I would had I lived in Michigan or Ohio, where I work. So that is a decision of the state government. As for the private universities are charging prices that don't make sense either. And you can see now NYU is going to have free tuition for their medical school. And they should have raised money and made that a priority, but they haven't. And that's why the neoliberal philosophy is extremely wrong, because it's not about the size of the government. It's about priorities. The government has not decreased in size. We just spend it on different things. And if you decide that you want to use contractors for Medicaid or Medicare or to build a hospital or to build a road, and consistently the evidence shows per mile, per dollar, per heart stent that it costs more money, that is ideology. That is neoliberal ideology, because if you cared about saving money, you would not use private contractors to deliver Medicaid. You would not use private contractors to build hospitals in Britain or to run train services. And that's dollar per dollar. And if you really believe in cost effectiveness, that's the evidence. If you believe that private companies are intrinsically better and the government deserves to give them money no matter what, then that's your ideology. That's not your facts.
Well, what I say is, what I'd like to interject, if I could, is that what I'm saying, the point I'm trying to make, and I heard what you said, and I totally get it. I totally get it. But the reality is, the reason you have an expense in business, and hospitals are business. Let's just get that out there. It's a business. Healthcare is a business. And even if you did Medicaid in any form, what you're doing is providing the catalyst for the business. Who
Rudy?
determines?
Well, that's true. But I agree with you. But if you're telling me dollar for dollar that the way we deliver health care, even in a state like New York, which has the most expensive Medicaid in the country, I've interviewed in the Bronx at Montefiore, Albert Einstein.
Let me ask you this. Anna, let me ask you this. Why? I'm asking you, the catalyst. The question is why? There's only one. Listen, in business, what drives costs is the downstream. If you looked at cocaine and how it rises up from $1,600 in Mexico up to $22,000 in Arizona, it's a supply chain.
Oh, well, okay, I'll answer that right away. Do you know, in this country, no one knows what the cost of delivering pneumonia. I was going to work on a study in Cleveland with a guy who was comparing costs of treating pneumonia in Cleveland versus Helsinki, Finland. Do you know, in this country, the problem is the vast majority of costs are not measured. The accounting is all off, just like the Defense Department.
Okay,
60%
guys.
of the costs.
Yeah, guys, I have to end the conversation here because we're at 3:51 and I have to play a video. But I mean, I think let's have this let's continue this conversation on Monday, because Monday would be a.
Listen. Okay, all right. Let me just say this, Annan. Let me say this. And Egberto, you need to do another show on this topic and let's cover it, because, like I said, I think Annan is on point.
Yes, he is. He's always on point. That's my man. Hey, guys, listen.
Okay, you guys have a good night.
All right, I got to go, Rudy. Thank you guys so kindly for calling, and we'll finish this up. I got to play the video. Take care, brother.
Bye.
Okay, folks, now I mentioned that I had to play this video, and I need to get to the video, and we only have a few minutes to get it done. So here is the video that I want you to listen to, and here we go.
Said, I almost fill up an application. They want my money to draw in, and then they said underwriter did not approve.
Let me back up.
Right.
Hold on, I want to get it from the beginning. That's my fault, guys, so forgive me for screwing that up. Let me go ahead and get it started from the beginning. So I'm sorry.
Oleg, you work on homes. You've always been self-employed.
Yes.
You always been
life.
take care of yourself. You always paid your taxes.
Yes.
You've always did everything yourself.
Every day. Exactly. Yes.
Now, you had a health scare recently.
Yes.
What happened?
Getting older, I got scared fair because I had I born with a defective mitral valve, and I didn't pay attention for years until I got a little older, and all of a sudden I got out of breath. Couldn't breathe, so I went to hospital.
Now you're a solid red Republican, aren't you?
Well, put it this way, I'm a fair Republican.
Right.
Not ultra-conservative.
Right.
Or not ultra-crazy nuts.
There was a time, if I remember talking to you, that you weren't necessarily into Obama, but now you're telling me, wow, thank God for Obamacare.
Like I said, if I could meet President Obama today, I would kiss his in the butt. Because thank for him that we have Obamacare, and thank God that most of us qualify, and I don't make millions of dollars. Otherwise, I don't know what I would do. I would just go and shoot myself because nobody want to touch me. I applied to at least 20 different insurance companies, from Aetna to some unknown insurance company who doesn't, not even on the map. And every one of them, first question was, did you have a pre-existing condition? Yes, I had. Okay, we'll call you.
Never called you.
Never called me back.
Even though that's illegal now.
Exactly. They're supposed to technically take it, but they don't care. And one of them said, I almost fill up an application. They want my money to draw in, and then they said underwriter did not approve me.
Right.
Why? I didn't have a heart attack. I'm not vegetable. I don't have anything else but a little battery replacement. Why is that supposed? And half of this country walk with the high blood pressure.
So this is private insurance that you're trying to get. You're trying to get private insurance.
I was trying to get.
So then, well, now as a Republican, I imagine that you would definitely support Medicare for All where you can.
No, I support Obamacare. I support some kind of help.
Right.
Or fair medication, or fair medical treatment, or fair medical help.
Isn't that Medicare for all?
No, I don't want a Medicare for all.
Well, why is it that you don't?
Obamacare is helping us as by the law, okay, to people who cannot afford it.
What is it about Medicare for all that you don't want?
I don't think government can afford for all. Then we would be a Canada or England, because I know.
And isn't the question about that? Isn't Canadian medicine better than American medicine? Though, I mean, if you were in Canada, wouldn't you have gotten taken care of?
A medical quality. It's a question when you get that quality.
But do you know that if you were actually sick and needed care in Canada or UK, you get it right away? Not if you're in an emergency situation.
Emergency, anybody available. I can go to emergency today.
Right.
It can only help me so much.
But again, don't you think that I mean, first of all, the things that they talk about, it takes a long wait, is not true, first of all. That's not true. I've tested it.
I had some relatives that live in Canada with my ex-wife, and they had to go to Florida for treatment for cancer and some other stuff. Why? Because it was a line of wait in certain hospitals, and they couldn't get it. And you took in Montreal, and you took in Toronto.
Well, question: we spend about twice as much as Canada, so we wouldn't have that kind of wait.
First of all, we don't have 30 million people. We have 320.
It scales. It scales. It doesn't matter. It scales. I mean, if you got a whole lot more jobs, you'll hire a lot more people.
Percentage-wise, you may be on the
same.
The same thing. They 30 million. They spend so much. We spend so much.
Right.
Okay? But I tell you one thing: before Obamacare, before they made the law, and you just said something that I didn't know.
Yes.
It's against the law right now.
Yes.
To accept you.
Right.
But all these private insurance companies don't care.
Of course not. That's why we need to make Medic single payer, because nobody can say no. Let me ask you a foolish question.
You know what?
Yeah.
They have a drug czar.
Yeah.
Why don't you make a medical czar?
We need that
the
too.
One that we can call,
yes,
send a letter and complain,
but
they can reprimand those medical companies.
But why? Let me ask you this: why do you want to? Why do you want to pay 10 CEOs several $1 million? Why do you want to spend money for advertising that don't have to be spent? That is where your money go in private insurance. Yeah. Why do you want to do that? Why don't you want one person paying the bill so that all that money that would have been paid to that executive?
Same thing that you don't want to pay for Nike $500 because they pay some.
But that's private.
Celebrity.
You don't have to have a shoe, but you have to have your health care.
That's right. And we have a Medicare and Medicaid at some point, okay?
Right, but what I'm saying, why are we giving our money to rich CEOs? Why are we giving our money to rich? Why not just give it to
one? Criteria or ceiling cap or something, whatever you call it. Okay?
Why don't we just have one payer? One person who pays the bill, so that we don't have those other expenses. Why don't we have that?
I don't disagree.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree.
That's Medicare for all.
Yeah, yes.
That is Now, if that is Medicare for all, do you want Medicare for all? If that is it,
insurance company are a stock company, okay?
Yes.
Stockholders.
So my question to you again.
By the way, what I'm telling you,
yes.
okay, you're absolutely right.
Yes.
They got a CEO on top of CEO on top of CEO.
Right. That has to get paid a millions.
Yes. They have a huge benefit. They have
right.
good stuff. They have French benefit, you name it. Okay?
Right.
And what do they do exactly?
Nothing.
What do they do?
Nothing.
Every 2 years they change him, they kick him out.
And they pay a bill.
That's right.
So my question to you again, Oleg, I think if you get rid of your ideology, you would agree with me that Medicare for all is the only thing for healthcare. I'm not talking about Nike.
As far as I'm concerned, and I'm almost senior citizen.
Yes, sir.
I actually senior
yes.
citizen. And I'm already collecting Social Security.
Yes.
Here's my input on that stuff.
Yes.
Okay? Screw all other unnecessary expensive. From military bullshit to other crap and everything else, and put for people's health.
So, Oleg?
I work for 45 years.
Yes, you did.
40 years. I pay
taxes.
I pay, what do you call this?
Medicaid.
No.
Social Security.
Social Security. I pay Social Security.
And Medicare.
And Medicare and everything else. And what do I get? I have to wait until 70 to get so much.
So, again, if I can break you from your ideology, you would agree with me that Medicare for all is the answer.
Yes, I probably agree 100%, yes.
So that's all
since I got sick, and since I've got a little older, you got to change your point of view.
Thank
To
you.
the point when people deserve more than they get it right now.
Thank you, sir.
And government should care more for people than care for tchotchkes and crap and everything else.
Gracias, amigo.
Okay, as you can see, Oleg, if you see how his mind was working, he was thinking, and eventually you actually see when Oleg said, "Damn," you could actually see the change in his features, like, "Damn, these people have been screwing us." And that is what we have to, those of us who understand the reality. That is what we have to work. We're at the end of the show, folks. Please remember to go to politicsdoneright.com and provide support for being a subscriber to the show, all that good stuff, but we got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.